On this week's episode of Talking with TwT, even out of my friends who have had kids, they say and do things that they've never had happen to them. Man, nothing beats an amazing, ice-cold, frothy Guinness. And now let's get into episode 186. What is happening, TwT fans? It is so good to be back on this October 26, 2023. And again, I'm so glad to have you all back here with me. Before we get into anything this week, let me start off by saying thank you to all my subscribers. Thank you to all the new subscribers. If you're new, popping by or checking it out, please hit that subscribe button. It really does help the podcast, and I greatly appreciate it. Of course, if you want your opportunity to be a guest, tell a story or tell your story, send it on over to the official email of the podcast, talkinwithtopher@gmail.com. Again, that is talkinwithtopher@gmail.com. You can send an audio, a video, or you can type it out, but send it on over to the official email of the podcast, talkinwithtopher@gmail.com. And then, of course, if you want to find everything TwT, just click the link tree, all right here. Click that link tree. It gives you access to everything on all platforms. And, of course, it's the easiest way to share the podcast. So go ahead, copy it, and send it to all the people that you know. Hopefully they'll like it as much as you do. All right, but just go ahead and share or go ahead and click that link tree link. Boop, 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 boop. And now let's get into today's episode. Oh my God, October is almost over, everybody. Holy smokes. What a wonderful episode with my guest, Michael Firth. I love doing those episodes, man. It's so much fun, and we really need to be questioning everything today. Just like I'm questioning whether or not, depression, anger, hostility, nervousness, anxiousness, all of the nisses, are they hereditary? And is depression hereditary? Is it? Or is it environmental? Or do you think it's 50-50 today? I mean, there's so many questions, right? Because we do inherit so many things from our parents, from comorbidities to things that we're good at. And then there's always, I hear this a lot, even out of my friends who have had kids, they say and do things that they've never had happen to them. So do memories get passed down from adult to child? I mean, it's a valid question, right? If they're talking about things that have happened, but they weren't there for them, how do they know? So it makes me wonder, is it possible for depression and all of these symptoms to be passed down? I think it's a very possible scenario today. That we're going to find out more and more things are passed down, right? Just like this generation of kids that are coming up or being born are probably going to have more plastics in their DNA because let's just say my age bracket is having kids, right? And the 20s, the 30s, they're having kids now. And they have a lot of plastics, right? They say that we eat, about a credit card a day? Something like that, or a week? Which is crazy to think about. But if you think about it, everything is wrapped in plastic. Everything, from all of this podcasting equipment to snow cones and waffle cones and all kinds. I mean, everything is wrapped in plastic. So with us ingesting more and more plastics and genitalia shrinking, taint shrinking, women having, I don't know if it's a defect, but their vaginal walls are thinning. There's all kinds of stuff going on with the human body due to plastics. So it's not something that's like really a surprise, but how many problems, comorbidities, and how ill could our next generations be because of all of this? And is there a way to stop it? I really don't think there is at this point, because of the simple fact that plastic's everywhere. So when you start thinking about depression and anxiety and all of these things that we've been told over the years that it is just a symptom of what's going on in your environment, it made me start thinking, was my mom ever depressed? Was my dad ever depressed? Is it possible that I inherited my depression? And I think it has a little bit of both, right? Even the environment I was putting myself in definitely helped exacerbate my depression, right? It helped it form. It helped it solidify itself. But was it something that was already in me? And what I was doing in my life and the environment that I was putting myself in, it just exacerbated it. I think I just like saying that word today. Maybe that's the word of my day. That's the word of my day today. Exacerbate. It's almost like masturbate, huh? But it got me thinking, man. I think we inherit more than just our looks and just our defects and just, the blood, the line. It's pretty incredible that we've come so far today with science and medical and all of the things that we have going on in this world. I can't go through them all because there's way too many today. There's way too many. The advancement that we are making today is insane, and it's moving so rapidly. So now we're starting to look at where these symptoms are starting. And I think it's a great place to start because it had to have started with our parents. And it had to have started with their parents' parents and their parents' parents, right? So I've gotten a lot of information from my grandmother. I wasn't capable of talking to my grandfather the way I wanted to because I was 11 by the time he died. So I missed out on that. My great aunts, my great uncles, my aunt and uncles. I've had a lot of discussions with all of them, including my cousins. And I do have to say that, it seems like we are all susceptible to all of these emotions and to all of these things happening to us. But where does it start? How does it happen? And if we could figure out that and pinpoint it, are we capable of stopping it? Without medications, without doctors, without scientists pumping us full of shit that is unnecessary. Is it possible to overcome this just by knowing your family's history? Right? I mean, my grandmother lived through the Great Depression. So the Great Depression caused people to be depressed, right? And then those people during the Great Depression had kids, or even after, but they had to go through that. And then they came out of it, right? Because my grandmother lived through it. But what was her childhood like? I never got to ask her these things. And then she had my mom and my aunt and my other aunt and my uncle. So is it possible that that's where it started, you know? But my grandmother's parents were forced out of where they were living because they were being overruled, which is why they're here, why they came to America, you know? They popped over, came across the waters, went into Canada. They went all the way down to New Orleans. But what did they bring over with them? Anxiety, depression, anger. So, for me, it makes a lot of sense that I can comfortably and confidently say that it is possible. This all was passed down from generation to generation to generation. So, I don't know. Food for thought. Think about it. You know, it's pretty wild. Therapy's been going great. I'm actually getting ready to get out of here right now to go there. But I wanted to talk about weakness. And what is your definition of weakness? Put it in the comments. I thought the definition of weakness was someone who was weak, couldn't pick something up, couldn't hold their own body weight, can't do a pull-up, you know? That's what I see as weakness. But it's not just physical. It's mental, right? As much. Some people are mentally weak. They're not capable of dealing with change. They're not capable of dealing with a high anxiety situation. They're not capable of being able to control their emotions. That is also a weakness. And the reason that this came up in therapy is because I don't do well with compliments. I don't do well with anybody telling me that I'm doing a good job. I don't like it when people say they like things that I do. Why? Because I think everything I do is shit. I've always been on the opposite side of this. Yelling, screaming, being told I was wrong, doing something wrong and being punished for it. Even in my job. And I think this is what made me a good manager. I think this is what makes me a good leader. Because I have no problem saying, hey, do this and this and this. If it's wrong, I'll take the blame. I'm comfortable taking blame. I'm comfortable being wrong and accepting that wrongness and accepting the fact that I made this decision that was wrong. That's easy for me. I could do that all day. You want to yell and scream at me? I'm comfortable. I'm calm. Thank you. Good. But when you compliment me, oh, man, what a different story that is. My body cringes. I can feel myself sweating. I get super uncomfortable and standoffish. And why? Being told you're doing a good job, or you did something right, or you had a good question, or none of that should be uncomfortable. But when you've lived the life I've lived, just being a complete and absolute shitbag for most of my life, right? You know, half of my marriage. More than half of the time with my wife. You know, the way I treated my parents, the way I stole from my neighbors. I mean, just so comfortable being wrong and getting yelled at. But today, I need to turn my weakness around. I need to make my weakness a strength. And I need to be able to accept the fact that I'm no longer that person. I also need to accept the fact that I do have correct responses, that I do make good decisions, and that I am a better person today. But there's always something else to work on. There's always something else that needs a little adjusting. But today I can comfortably say that 90% of my anger issues are gone. That I'm a much better speaker today than I was 4 years ago. That I think clearly before doing something now. And that makes me feel more confident with myself and with my decisions. So why is it when I feel this way and then someone turns around and goes, "That's great," I then get uncomfortable. So the definition of weakness, just so everybody knows, I got 4 of them. It is a noun, the state or quality of being weak, lack of strength, firmness, vigor, or the like, feebleness is 1. An inadequate or defective quality, as in person's character, slight fault or defect, to show great sympathy for human weakness. 2. A self-indulgent liking or special fondness as for a particular thing. I've always had a weakness for opera. That's 3. An object of special desire, something very difficult to resist. Chocolates were her weakness. That is example 4. So with those 4 examples of weakness, you can clearly see that there's many sides to it, and there's different variations of weakness. And whatever yours is, you need to find a way to turn it into a strength. You need to get comfortable in that uncomfortableness. And that is what I'm working on now. I'm still working on my anger. I want to get rid of that last 10%, although I do have to say I've come up with a few solutions to subsiding my anger with my computers and inanimate objects, because I felt like it was okay for me to get upset at inanimate objects because it's not my wife, it's not my dogs, it's not my family, it's not my friends. But guess what? It's still not okay. So therefore, therefore, that is a weakness. It's still a weakness for me that I am slowly turning into a strength. And once I subside the rest of the anger towards the inanimate objects, that's it. I think I've accomplished my goal. But this goal is something I've been working on since I got sober off of alcohol. So 7 years. So again, another thing that takes time. It all takes time. And if you're not willing to put the time in, then that is when it will never change. Change only happens when you want it to and when you are ready to put that work in. It's the only time it's going to happen. Other than that, you're just going to keep spinning that wheel. And you're going to keep saying to myself, I don't understand why I can't do. Because you're not putting in the work. When you put in the work and you work at it, you get results. But I do have to say that, therapy for me is a tool. All right. I'll let you in on a little bit here. My wife has recently just gone to therapy. And I don't know if I've mentioned this. I probably have. I've recorded way too many of these, so I can't keep track of what I said and what I haven't. So if I repeated it, oops. But she first walked in there and she told them, I have no idea why I'm here. That's good. Most people don't know why they're there. You're not going to realize why you're there until you've been there long enough to finally realize that it's working. She was like, I don't think this is for me. I don't know what to say, and I don't know what to talk about. And now, I think she's 4 or 5 weeks in. Now she's like, I feel like something's happening. And I told her, that's exactly how this works. You go from not knowing why you're there to not knowing what to really talk about, not knowing how to open up. And then it changes. All of a sudden you walk in there and you've got everything to talk about. And then one day you go in and now you're focusing on the things that are bothering you. And once you get to that point, that's when you're going to start seeing real results. So those first 3 appointments, they're just getting you in there, getting you used to it, and getting used to the person that you're unloading to, opening up to. And then after that, that's when the real work begins. And now she's like enjoying going, you know, she's got it mapped out so that it fits within her schedule. And now she looks forward to going. Because why? Because of the same reasons that I said in past podcasts, past couple weeks, I've said, you have somebody that's absolutely and completely listening to you. And that is what we all need. So I know a lot of people think that therapists are just shrinks and they're just taking your money. And I understand that argument, but they're not a chiropractor. Okay? That is a person that is, it can be taken a couple different ways. A lot of people stand behind chiropractors. I know a lot of people in jiu-jitsu that have a chiropractor. They go to them on the regular. It helps with them. That's great. But at the end of the day, they're not a real doctor. They are just a person. And they may be readjusting you, but there's a lot of them out there that have really hurt people over the years. And caused major issues for them. So I don't think of a shrink that way. They are actual doctors. Some of them are actual MDs. And when they're an actual MD, because I was wrong about what I had said before, if you go to a shrink that's an MD, that is a person that can give you medication. All the rest of them cannot. Doesn't matter if they're therapists, psychologists. If there's no MD, then they can't prescribe any medication. So if you are somebody who's on medication, I always recommend going to a therapist or a psychologist that has an MD, because then you're going to also go over what is going on with your medications. And then they know all the medications. They can readjust your medications. They can give you new medications. They can take away medications. They can do all kinds of shit. Really dial that in. And then once all the medications are doing what they're supposed to be doing, you continue with your therapy. And eventually, you might be able to get to the point where I'm at, where you can ask them, okay, I think I finally found the issue, which was alcohol for me. And once I got rid of the alcohol, it was weird. I didn't need the medication anymore. So I worked with him to get off the medication, because it has to be a slow process. But at the end of the day, you're never going to find out unless you walk through that door and check it out. So therapy is great. I think everybody should get into it. And just give it a good old 3 tries before you give up. And of course, if it's not for you, then it's not for you. But with there being so many different ways to be able to do therapy today, phone, Zoom, in-house, I even know of some therapists that will actually go to your house, which is interesting. I think that's because of the pandemic as well. A lot of these things happen over the pandemic. But, one of my friends who got me back into therapy, he used to go in-house. And now he does it over Zoom because he's been doing it for 2-3 years. So now he's comfortable with his therapist, so comfortable that he can just do it over Zoom. And he's so used to doing work from home still, it's just natural to him. Which I'm sure for a lot of you out there today, where you had school at home, you had your job at home, you had all kinds of shit going on at home. I'm sure it's probably going to be a little bit more comfortable for you too. But if I can suggest anything, besides just going to therapy, I really recommend going in-house. Because I really feel like one-on-one is lost today. And I think it's something we need to bring back. Kind of like schools going backwards and doing, one-on-one and speaking up at the front. And I think these are all tools that have been lost. And I think that's why the world we live in today is so different. Because people would rather sit behind their keyboard and do whatever they want and have no repercussions. Which is why when you do that to somebody in front of their face, you may not want to, because I'm telling you right now, you could get hurt. And people don't understand that because they try to treat the real world like they're behind a keyboard. You can't do that because you say the wrong thing, somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to get upset. And that's how fights start. That's how violence is. It's not silence is violence. Violence is violence. And when you instigate violence, better be ready. Because you ain't sitting behind a keyboard. You're right there in that person's face. That's going to be a different scenario for you. But I do find that it's way too easy to disconnect ourselves and put ourselves in these little bubbles so easily because we'd rather stay at home and sit behind a keyboard and not be out there one-on talking to people, socializing. Dating world today is wacky. It's wacky today. People put out all these fake personas and this is me, happy, 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 happy. And then you actually meet the person and it's a whole different story, whole different ballgame. That's because they are used to being behind a computer. That is because they don't know anything better. And they won't put themselves out there because it makes them feel uneasy. And that is a weakness. That's a weakness. Shit. And now let's take a quick break so you can hear from my sponsor. This October, are you ready to add a splash of fun and style to your wardrobe? Look no further than slowdownclothing.bigcartel.com. That's right. Don't forget to put in promo code TOPHER to get an extra 10% off your entire purchase. Introducing Slow Down Clothing, the ultimate destination for the whole family to express their unique personalities and embrace the joy of slowing down. From quirky and amusing designs for the young ones to sophisticated and expressive tees for the adults, Slow Down Clothing has something for everyone. Embrace the thrill of the ride with our high-quality skateboards and gloves, carefully designed to bring you both style and protection. Whether you're splashing in the waves or lounging under the sun, our comfortable swimming shorts and soft beach towels are perfect companions for those summer days spent by the water. Slow Down Clothing is more than just a clothing company. It's a lifestyle. It encourages you to appreciate the simple moments, find joy in everyday experiences, and savor the beauty of life. Slow down and create lasting memories with Slow Down Clothing. Visit slowdownclothing.bigcartel.com today to explore our wide range of stylish and comfortable apparel, from kids' shirts to women's leggings, skateboards, gloves, swimming shorts, beach towels, and so much more. Slow down and embrace the fun and style with slowdownclothing.bigcartel.com. Also, put in promo code TOPHER before you check out for that extra 10% off your entire purchase, because life is meant to be enjoyed one moment at a time. All right, and I'm back, everybody. That was a quick break. Remember, thank you so much, Slow Down, for sponsoring the podcast for many years now. I think it's 3. Wow, time flies. But thank you. I always want to say thank you to my sponsor. It's very important. And now, with that being said, let's get into Topher's Topics. So I don't know what's going on here, but there are snails everywhere. Snails are coming from all over the place. We had those snails, those apple snails, and now we've got New Zealand mud snails make its way into Lake Tahoe, and it's not welcome. They look so cute. What's wrong with them? I don't understand. It's so funny. I don't know. What's up with the snails? In the vastness of the second deepest lake in the United States, a tiny snail is posing a threat of concerning proportions. The invasive New Zealand mud snail has been discovered in Lake Tahoe. It's unclear how this kiwi species wound up in the cobalt blue waters of Sierra Nevada, but officials said Thursday the mud snails are able to colonize new waters quickly and are difficult to detect because they're so small-sized. The announcement of the discovery was made in Tahoe Regional Planning Agency in the Tahoe Resource Conservation District. Divers monitoring Lake Tahoe have discovered invasive New Zealand mud snails in areas of the South Shore. The agency said in a joint release, this is the first time the species has been detected in Tahoe Basin. Julie Reagan, executive director of Regional Planning Agency, called the discovery concerning. Invasive species can be introduced to ecosystems through contaminated boats, fishing gear, and other objects. It is critical that everyone remain vigilant and adhere to mantra of clean, drain, and dry. Reagan said in the statement, every boater, paddler, and angler shares the responsibility to protect Lake Tahoe's native species and its waters we enjoy. The mud snails, which resemble grains of sand, wow, that is fucking tiny, huh? Could pose a threat to the Lake Tahoe ecosystem, which is both highly protected and important part of California and Nevada tourism. The scenic waters of surrounding areas draw tourists from all over the world in both the winter and summer seasons. Like many aquatic invasive species, without natural predators or controls, they can outcompete native species and harm ecosystem functions, the agency said in the release. The first time the species was found in the United States was in Idaho in 1987. The mud snail has since been found in 22 states, including California, Nevada, and Colorado, as well as the Great Lakes, and it is native to freshwater bodies in New Zealand, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. But the recent discovery marks the first time the species has been found in the Lake Tahoe. A team of experts with the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency and Conservation District in conducting further dives to determine the extent of the invasion. The incident team and our partners are dedicated to protecting Lake Tahoe and will be working together to evaluate options for responding to new findings, said Dennis Zabagalo, the Aquatic Invasive Species Program Manager for Regional Planning Agency. So these things are bad. They're bad. I didn't know they were smaller than a grain of sand. That's pretty interesting. But what's with all these snails all of a sudden showing up? There's another snail out there, too. I think that's going to be in a podcast before or after this one. But what is with it? 3 different species of snails are now invasively getting into our waters and destroying ecosystems. And, I mean, so much is going on today. So much. I mean, let's quickly talk about Israel getting bombed. I mean, they're raping women and children. They've taken hundreds of hostages. They've killed hundreds of people. Thousands are injured. And now they're trying to say that our government didn't say that they couldn't do this, which is why they did it. I mean, this is just crazy. We're going to back them, right? We've already got funds in place, Biden said. But what if they got the weapons from Ukraine? What if they got all these weapons from when we left Iraq? Abruptly. We didn't take anything back. So those groups came in and took everything. I feel like we're always kind of at fault. But I don't think it's done by accident. I don't stand with Ukraine. I don't stand with Israel. I don't stand for war. Period. I stand with America and Americans that live here, whether you migrated in or whether you were born here. That's where I stand. And I think, yes, all of this is awful, horrible, disgusting. But at the end of the day, when are we going to take care of us more or equal to how much we try to take care of everybody else on this planet? You know? But it is possible that those weapons were sold to them by Ukraine. There is a possibility there, which, if you think about it, is kind of gross. But we already knew this was going to happen. Not the specifics. But we knew when we gave them weapons and we gave them money, we knew that money and those weapons, some of that shit was not documented. It went missing, and we did not know if Ukraine was distributing them elsewhere. Now, we might have our answer. So, is that our fault? I think we're partially to blame. Which is probably why they feel obligated to support them. So at the end of the day, I think we have to make better decisions. And I think we need to step back a little bit sometimes. Because the more we get involved, the more money we dish out, the weaker our defenses are. And then, what's going to happen? I'm not saying it's going to, and I don't want it to. But don't you think that eventually this is going to come home? It's going to touch us? I mean, if everybody else out there blames us, damn, how long, right? But yeah, so let's see. I got another one. So right now, a deer walks right into a thermal pool in Yellowstone National Park, stuns onlookers. So they lied to us? Well, no, they didn't lie to you. And again, this is just an article to read. So the deer walked in. Now, these pools can get to temperatures where they will literally melt the skin off of your body. Or they could be as warm as a hot tub. And now it's not dangerous. The deer happened to pick one that was not that hot because it didn't die. It just walked up to it, walked in it, and then walked away. But these people are like, oh shit, look, they lied to us. We can go to those. We can touch the water. Don't do that. Look, they tell you to stay away from every single one. Why? Because it's easier than being like, well, this one's this degree, this one's this degree, that one's too hot. That's why they generalize most of the time. It's not because they don't want you to go up to it, but they don't, right? They don't want you to, because now you're going to contaminate it, because we know how people are. We have to touch. We have to, somebody would walk into it, and piss in it, That could ruin the ecosystem. Who knows what that could do? So it's easier for them to just be like, stay away from these. They're dangerous. So I'm saying, don't be the deer. Don't try to figure it out. And don't go touch them. Because the chances of you melting off your skin is there. So with that being a chance, why would you do it? But I think the generalization for keeping people out of these thermal pools is justified. Because stop fucking up the ecosystem. Right? Are you a mud snail? No. So stay out of the water. They didn't lie to you. They just generalized. But I bet you there's going to be so many fucking people that are like, I just watched a deer do this. I'm going to go do it. And they're going to do it to the wrong thermal pool. And they're going to be a hurting unit. And then they're going to go, but I just saw a deer do it. Like I said, they do it for our safety. And you should be smart enough to just listen to them. And don't follow the deer's example. Let's see. All right. So now there has been U.S. government issues first ever space debris penalty to Dish Network. Dish is, look at this picture. This picture is insane. I'm going to blow it up for you a little bit. Look at that. Can you see the amount of debris flying around our planet? It looks like billions and billions of like little stars. That is all satellites. It's crazy. Now, a lot of those satellites are obsolete, broken, been banged up by little, you can't call them asteroids, but like little asteroids. They're plowing through them, damage them. They don't work anymore. So the U.S. Federal Communications Commission has issued its first fine to a company that violated the anti-space debris rule, the commission announced on Monday. Dish Network has to pay $150,000 to the commission over its failure to deorbit its EchoStar 7 satellite, which has been in space for more than 2 decades. Instead of properly deorbiting the satellite, Dish sent it into a disposal orbit at an altitude low enough to pose an orbital debris risk. As satellite operations become more prevalent and the space economy accelerates, we must be certain that operators comply with their commitments, said Loan A. Eagle, the FCC's Enforcement Bureau chief in the state, announcing the Dish settlement. This is a breakthrough settlement, making very clear the FCC has strong enforcement authority and its capability to enforce its vital, important space debris rule. In 2002, Dish launched the satellite into geostationary orbit, a field of space that begins 22,000 miles above Earth. It agreed in 2012 to an orbit debris mitigation plan that, upon completion of the EchoStar 7's mission, would send the satellite 186 miles above where it was stationed into a graveyard orbit, where it would not be at risk to other active satellites. But in 2022, Dish realized that the satellite was low on the propellant and would not have enough to move to its intended destination. Instead, the satellite ended up over 76 miles above the active geostationary orbit areas, 178 kilometers off its mark. Space debris is broadly defined by FCC as an artificial objects orbiting Earth that are non-functioning spacecraft have been a growing concern for the agency. It says that more old material that stays in orbit, the harder it is for incoming satellites to start and complete new missions. In 2022, the FCC adopted a rule that would require satellite operations to dispose of their satellites within 5 years of the mission completion. I mean, this is just crazy that this shit is just floating around out there, fucking maybe possibly could cause an issue for new satellites to show up. And now they're going to have to spend $150,000 on this fine and get rid of the satellite. And now all your subscriptions are going up. Because that's what happens. They pay out, they go 150,000 divided by X amount of subscribers. Boom. That's how much your monthly bill will go up. This does not come without a cost to us. It never comes without a cost to us. These fucking companies do this shit, and then they make us fucking pay for their mistakes. And I have to say that I was a Dish Network person, but I eventually got rid of all satellites and all cable because I knew streaming was the new biggest thing. So the fact that these guys are still prevalent today really surprises me. I thought these guys were done. I thought Dish was done. I know DirecTV's got that sports package, so I know you people out there really like your DirecTV. But Dish Network, man, I haven't really heard of anybody having them that often anymore. So this, I don't know, maybe it bankrupts the company. But I know for a fact they're going to make you pay for their mistake, for sure. But they still got to get the damn satellites out of there, right? They got to figure out something. So how do you do that? What do we do about all of this trash in space? How do we clean it up? Right? We can barely clean up the trash in our fucking oceans and rivers and lakes and all this other bodies of water that are completely contaminated. How do we fucking clean this shit up? Because if we don't clean it up, it's just going to get worse. It's just going to get worse. So, one of my favorite pastimes is used to be going to Cactus Jack's, right? And I would go there, and man, I got a story for you. It's just one of my pastimes. Let's see what's going on with Cactus Jack's real quick.
A popular restaurant in Manchester announced they are closing by the end of the year. CJ's Great West Grill has been on South Willow Street since 1995, but the owner is choosing to close because the landlord bought out the lease to make room for a fast food restaurant. The 54 employees are being offered jobs at the other locations in the company, including T-Bones and Copper Door sites.
You know, it was mixed. It really was. There were some that said, you know what, it's a good thing because I see a new opportunity with change. Always comes an opportunity, and that's what they see. And then there's some, of course, that, you know, there's a couple that have been here for 20 years, and they love it.
Employees who stay on until closing will receive a bonus, and then employees who move to another restaurant in the company and stay there for 6 months will receive another bonus.
Nice. That is very important, I think. I think it's always important and great when companies do things like this. You know, they close down locations, they close up stores, and allowing employees to bounce back to or bounce over to a different location or, you know, better opportunities is always a good thing. It's a very good thing. It you know, that's good job security, and people need that today. But Cactus Jack's, I used to go there long time ago. My favorite thing to do was go in there, get their jalapeno poppers. I mean, they are just amazing. Or they were. I mean, they're still open. But They bread them by hand, deep fry them, and the breading on the jalapeno is just fire. So good. And I would get myself, this is why I don't go anymore, because it's all drinking related. It's all drinking related. All these good memories I have, right? It's so stupid. But I would get a fucking Guinness, crack that open, drink that. The jalapeno poppers would show up. I'd start eating those. I'd drink my Guinness, and it was just heaven. So I'd have 2 Guinnesses, 2 servings of jalapeno poppers, steak, salad, whatever, and just be in heaven. And then I would leave that place sideways, and I'd drive home. So you can see why it's silly that this is a good memory, right? It's actually a bad memory, but I make it good. Because in my mind, I didn't get in trouble. I didn't lose my shit. I didn't black out. And I didn't crash my car. So therefore, it's a good memory. That is false information. It is not a good memory. It's a memory. It's a bad memory that I try to make sound good. But man, it was one of my favorite spots to go to. And I don't know about you, but man, nothing beats an amazing ice cold frothy Guinness. I used to call that a meal in a can. I didn't even have to eat. I just drink those. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm eating. I'm full. Fucking idiot. But it's kind of sad to see it go away, but it's the way the world is. Nothing lasts forever. Change is inevitable. And if we don't change with change, it's going to change without you. It really is. So now there is this thing going on where they want to start fingerprinting children. And we're going to watch the video on this because I think this is a bad idea.
I saw the 2 incidents, the recent one in Concord just a few miles from here, and then the recent incident that they recovered the girl this morning in New York. And I have 5 grandchildren myself and 2 daughters. So as soon as I saw that, I immediately thought, okay, we got to do something.
Barnstead Police are launching a new initiative called Bring Me Home Safe. Parents can bring their children into the police station to get fingerprinted in the event that a child ever disappears.
As you know, fingerprints don't change. So in the event of an emergency situation, the parents will be able to produce these fingerprints for us in the event we need them.
Eventually, the goal is to use one of these automated fingerprinting machines that are hooked up directly to the FBI. But in the meantime, Barnstead Police will do things the old-fashioned way. I let them fingerprint me as an example. Here's how it'll work. An officer will ink your fingers, roll them around on a piece of paper, and return that paper to the parent. Chief Paul Poirier says it's all just for safety purposes in the event that they're needed.
We want the parents to know that, we're not collecting anyone's information, anyone's data. We're not even going to keep a copy of this. This is going right back to the parents.
Okay, yeah, you telling me that, but I mean, how many things have I been told over the years and they didn't do it? How many things have you been lied to about? Look, I don't know if this is a good thing. Do kids deserve to be kidnapped? No, they don't. It's a very scary situation for everybody involved. Obviously, you want to get your children back home safely. And if there's any chance and possibility to allow that to happen, then it's got to be somewhat of a good thing. It's got to be, okay? That being said, though, yeah, at that moment in time, they are definitely not keeping that piece of paper, right? When they go digitally, they're going to be able to print it out. But guess what? That's saved. They're not going to delete that file. And even if they move it to the trash in front of you, do they empty the trash? Do they shred all the information behind it? I don't think they're going to. But once your child goes missing and you have these fingerprints, now you've given it to the cops because your child was kidnapped. Now it's in the system. So it's not in the system the day that you do it, but if anything goes wrong, it goes in the system. So again, I really do question whether or not this is a good thing or a bad thing. It's good because it'll help find your children. It's bad because now you're putting every child into the system. You really are. You know, just let me, small example. May not even be a good one, but let me try. I was afraid to do 23andMe or Ancestry because I was like, I don't want to give them my saliva. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be in the system. Guess what? My friend looked at me and he goes, dude, you've already been locked up. You've already done time. You've had fingerprints and pictures taken of you. Multiple districts. I've been fucking up for a long time. All right, and he goes, what does it matter? You're already in the system. And that's when I went, oh shit, you're right. And then I did Ancestry because it doesn't fucking matter. I think eventually, just like our privacy, cameras everywhere, phone always knows what you're doing. There is no privacy today. There's less and less privacy today. Because of that, I was like, you're right. I am already in the system. So why am I being hesitant towards it? And maybe some people out there today think that because we have basically no privacy anymore, that they're more willing to give up their child's information, right? They even say today to keep your kids off the internet. Keep them off of social media. Don't take their pictures. Don't do these things. Because when they grow up, are they going to want their baby picture out there forever? Do they want that out there? I don't know. You didn't ask them. But we all do it. All my friends, all my family. I mean, there was a couple people for a long time kept their kids off of that shit for quite some time. And then all of a sudden started popping up because you eventually give in. You want to be involved with everybody. So therefore, you strip yours and their privacy away from them so that you can get a like or a comment. But I really wish we didn't have to do anything like this. But unfortunately, kidnapping happens. There was just recently a thing that popped up. Some Honda Pilot with roof racks tried to get the kids to come into the car, and they rolled down the window and they were like, hey, get in the car because your mom said so. So this shit is happening today. I was a latchkey kid. I used to walk to the bus stop by myself. I used to come home before the lights went on at night. I was always out. I was told to get out of the house, go do something, go play, do whatever, go hang out with your friends, just get out of here. Get out of the house. It's a beautiful day. That doesn't happen anymore. So I think that's a major weakness, You can't fear everything because at the end of the day, it's going to make for weaker people. I feel like when I was told to do these things, it made me a stronger person because I was involved in situations that I had to deal with. And today, there's none of those problems or scenarios for the younger generations to deal with, so they don't know how to handle them when it happens. And that just, I think that kind of fucks with people, right? So, I don't know. Again, is that a weakness or is it a strength, right? Keeping your kids at home instead of sending them out. Could be taken both ways. But eventually, whatever they go through and problems they have, they'll eventually pass it down to their next generation, to their kids. I think it's all connected. It's all connected, but man, it's wild. I think this is going to happen more and more, though. More and more. All right, so really cool. Now, this is Chinese astronauts light a match on Tiangong space station. There are lighting fires in space. And real quick, I found out that they don't allow this on the International Space Station. So, because of that, these guys did it first. But they're doing an example on the ground and an example in space. Let's check this out. Now, this is a little bit silent. They do speak, but obviously it's all in Chinese. So I have no idea what they're saying, and there's no subtitles. But really cool. He lit the match, which is wild. There must be enough oxygen in there to keep the fire going. That's a wet paper towel he's sticking it into. Now the candle is lit. And they're going to put the black background. And now you can actually see the candle holding flame, just like the candle on Earth holding flame, but it's doing it in space on this rocket ship, space station, wherever the fuck they are. And the flame is holding. This has supposedly never been done before because it's too dangerous. Obviously, you don't want a fire in space. You don't have a fire team, coming over to put this out. You have nowhere to go. You can't go outside to run away from it. Like, if this goes sideways, you're fucking screwed, right? But I do think it's really interesting because my question is one, how does it hold flame? Because there's very little oxygen, but there's got to be oxygen in the cabin anyways because they're breathing, they're staying alive, right? We have to have oxygen to be able to do that. So there obviously is enough oxygen, but did you see how the wax was like starting to lift and kind of like making like almost a bubble to the wick? Really interesting to see how having no gravity and still keeping the flame, how the candle reacts in space. So overall, the experiment was kind of intriguing because I've never seen anything like it. But they were saying how America is against doing things like that because of fire and combustible things in space and blah, 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 blah. So it is quite dangerous. But as we know today, the Chinese don't really give a fuck about much of anything at all. Citizens, pollution. I mean, you can go down a fucking list of shit that they don't give a shit about. So they were like, oh, you guys won't do it? We're going to do it. Check this out. Anything to be the first, right? Got to be the first ones to do it. And with that all being said, everybody, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. I got to get out of here. I got to go with therapy. So I'm going to go talk about my feelings, which is good for you. All right. Question everything. Look into it. And of course, question yourself. It's important, okay? If you're feeling a particular way, look into it. If you are unsure about something, question it. And if you're feeling down, then find out why you're feeling down by finding somebody, anybody to listen to you, okay? Try it out, but I got to get out of here. So on that note, I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers. I want to say thank you to the new subscribers. As always, you are the reason I keep coming back week after week. Of course, if you're new, stopping by, checking it out, please subscribe. It is super important. I appreciate it just so much. So please be subscribing. And then, of course, if you want to tell your story, you got a story that needs to be heard, or you want to be a guest on this podcast with me, then send it over to talkinwithtopher@gmail.com. Of course, you can do an audio, video, or type it out, but send it over to the official email of the podcast, talkinwithtopher@gmail.com. And then, of course, the link tree is where you can find all TWT social, all the platforms, Everything is available there. Go ahead and click it. Check everything out. Go follow. And, of course, copy it. Copy it. Why? Because now you can share it with everybody you know, and hopefully they enjoy it as much as you do. But share the podcast. Help me make this thing bigger, and it's very easy to do that. Linktree link is in the description below the video. And now I hope everybody out there enjoys your Thursday. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as always, I will talk to you later.